Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited for our conversation today. So, Gabby, would love to have you start off by telling us who you are and what you do in the events industry.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited. I am a consultant, speaker, freelance event producer, pretty much whatever comes my way. I'm working on these days. I've been in events for just like you, I think like 15 years. Have a very squiggly trajectory. Started in live TV production and logistical management. Went to nonprofit fundraising events, and now I'm solopreneuring it. So I touch a little bit of everything, and I love
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah, and I mean, who hasn't in the events world had a squiggly line path,
Yep.
especially, you throw a pandemic and all that stuff in there and people found new journeys, I'll say, for sure. So, yeah, and I know like you're definitely speaking more and working with planners on relationship management, which I think is like we cannot talk about it enough because and I know like a few weeks ago I did an event I did a breakout session, you were there about stakeholder management and like that's all relationship management, right? And so what are you kind of seeing now? Like I think right now there's this shift happening in the industry where people are realizing, yes, we need to have events and they improve employee engagement. They help us gain more leads. They help us retain customers, but are still thinking of it of like, you know, 2018, 2019, those types of events. So like, what are you seeing the role of the event manager and how those relationships are changing?
It's the number one thing that I'm noticing is people are starting to realize like this has to be a priority because in the technological age that we're in right now, where you don't know if anything you're seeing online is real, people are craving.
Yeah.
And I know this is said all the time, but this is like, it's everywhere. People are craving that like human known interaction. They want to see someone face to face. They want to shake an actual hand rather than, virtual events are not going anywhere, but I think people are really craving the in-person connections and relationships because they want to know that they're establishing something real. It's just weird because we're in this like in between where AI blowing up everywhere, but we're still not used to it yet. So
Yeah.
people are still trying to like get comfortable with it, which makes them miss that. So people are realizing that like knowing how to maintain an actual personal business relationship with a human being is becoming even more important because we're losing it,
Yeah.
but we still
It's
want it.
right. It is this funny thing. I think we're seeing that for sure of one and here in Canada there's a large bookstore called Chapters Indigo, similar to like a Barnes and Noble, and they are doing a huge marketing campaign, ironically on social media, but also in store around like analog, like being analog in 2026. So like they at the beginning of the year had like an analog bingo card, which was like, do a
Wow.
puzzle, read a book, read like, you know, write in your journal, like all analog activities. And I'm seeing a lot of that too on social media as people are saying, well, I'm not necessarily getting rid of my social media, which some people are, but they're changing the way they're using it. They're saying, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, like, I want to use it as a tool. Like, I want to use it to stay connected to people, but I don't want it to be running my life. Like, I don't want it to be checking everything all the time because it's like some of it's habit, some of it's addiction, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
there's this like push for people to be more analog, right? And it's funny because we're trying to put all this AI and all this tech into the events, but really it's circling back to like the analog experience, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, people are either tired of seeing it on social media or they're tired of reading content that just sounds like vapid and
Mm-hmm.
like fake videos. They're like, okay, well then why am I interacting with this if it's all fake or mostly fake? Like I go onto Facebook now. I haven't had Facebook on my phone in probably 5 years because it was
Overwhelming.
too
Yeah.
it was overwhelming. And but I go in once in a while because there's a few groups that I'm in that don't have an alternative, or just go to check on something, or sometimes someone will invite me to an event and I'm like, oh shoot, right, like I go in every few days and check it. And I'm like, 90% of what I'm seeing isn't even content from people I know. It's like groups that I'm not in. It's, it's like posts from people that I don't know. And I'm like, now is that because people I know aren't posting enough to like fill that feed? Or is it that like, because I'm not spending enough time there, like it knows what I like because of like the groups that I'm
It's
in, but
the
it can't
algorithm.
figure out
Yeah.
what else to serve me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not spending enough time there, right? And so I think like the more that we are more conscious about how much time we're spending online, we are going to see people really revert to those in-person experiences.
And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed like all the changes that have been happening in social media lately, it feels like people are going back to using social media to promote analog.
Yeah.
Like that's originally how it started way back. I mean, like I got on, I'm dating myself here. I got on Facebook in what, 2007? That's what it was initially. It was like, this is where I'm going to put my invite for my best friend's bridal shower. Like it was promoting analog events or read my newsletter or magazine or something. And then it turned into the digital media consumption. And now I feel like it's going back to using it to promote in-person events or read my magazine or like trying to get back to analog. It's almost like it's doing this weird full circle, cannibalizing itself and getting back to, okay, social media is here and it's great, but it's also not what it used to be. Let's go back to meeting real humans, but it's still the best way to communicate with a large audience, right?
Yeah.
It always will be, I think, from here on out. But
Yeah. And I think, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm thinking about the content that I'm interacting with online. And it's a lot of Disney parks content. It's a lot
mhm.
of like, I'll call it bookstagram because I'm not really on TikTok because that
Yeah,
just seems more chaotic than I need.
yeah,
But, and I'm like, oh, those are all things that are actually in person or like offline,
tangible. Yeah,
tangible, but we're just talking about it on the internet versus just being on the internet to be like, now my Instagram is basically Disney parks, Diet Coke memes, and books, and I'm
right.
okay with that. Like I'm like I feel like
And
I've
and
well
you're using
crafted
it
this.
to connect with people that share those same offline interests, which is
Yeah,
what social media started as, and then it
yeah,
became this whole other beast. And now it almost feels like it's probably going to go through 6 or 7 more cycles, but it's like,
yeah,
and we're noticing it in all the trend reports and all the the big names in the industry are talking about it. It's like micro events, tangible offline experiences. Like I think I saw you posting something about like corporate dinners happening. Like things
yeah,
like that are that's what people are focusing on now. And for a while it wasn't that. I mean, especially with the pandemic, this became all the rage. Like how can you do hybrid online,
yeah,
reach a wider audience? And now it's like, okay, a wider audience was great, but now people want this more.
yeah,
They want the micro events. They want the real relationships and to build like actual trust. We were talking about this before, like having a village, having your
yeah.
community with the same interests and having like real conversations with people is it's definitely it's like coming back into trend, which is great because we were on the verge of losing those skills. No, I'm just kidding. But that's definitely what I'm noticing. And that's what the event industry specifically is trending more towards those dinners, those micro events, those
Yeah,
like groups, the small community groups, and yeah,
yeah.
brainstormings.
Well, and even the post was today. Julius posted about events that promote having 20,000 people at your event, and
Not a flex.
it's like, okay, that sure, but I even had this conversation with a CMO one time where I said, and it was a large event. It was, I think, about 28,000 people that attended the event, and we were an exhibitor. And I said, yeah, it's great that there's 28,000 people there, but we know that they don't, like, they basically had two trade show floors plus an outdoor trade show. And I said, you're not going to see all the 28,000 of those people. And I'm like, and I don't even remember how many people we had at the booth. I like on LinkedIn, I said it was 10. It might have been 6, it might have been 12. I don't really remember. But those 10 people, one sales rep can only talk to so many people in an hour, right?
Right.
And so, like, if you're going to have any kind of meaningful conversation, and let's say you even keep them pretty short, keep them to like 6 to 10 minutes, you're talking to 6 to 10 people an hour. So yeah, again, great that there's 28,000 people, but you're only talking to like a percent of a percent of a percent. So how
And
do
how many
you
of those people are your ideal clients?
right? And so, how many of them are your ideal client? How do you weed your way through finding those people in a sea of 28,000, 30,000 people, right? So, and I think like you're also seeing that with events that are really leaning into the micro events at their events, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
know that Go West just happened in Edmonton this week and looked like an amazing event, but I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh, there's also this side event that's happening that like that I can then connect with this group of like-minded people," right? And so it's like finding your people within the thousands of people because realistically you're not going to talk to everybody at the event, right? So
Right.
how do we make it easier for you to find the people that you actually want to be talking to when you're on site?
And it's when you do the more micro events, you can spend your energy catering to the very specific audience. And that's how you build like strong, lasting relationships, whether it's client and, attendee or whatever. But even like within teams and within your events, it's like focusing on the specific relationships, the smaller groups, the most important stakeholders to your event, that type of stuff. It's like that's what people are focusing on more these days. And it's like those skills are not something that we're taught,
Right.
like the micro event, building the trust, especially in like a professional relationship. So it's just fascinating to watch how much people are now talking about it. And like something else that's happening is the because of the way that the world is right now, like event teams are shrinking, companies are shrinking, tech teams, people are getting laid off, and people are wearing more than one hat. So people are dealing with like a lot more complex conversations with like scope creep. That's become my entire personality lately because I keep having people ask me questions about it. But like so many things like that people don't know how to manage those conversations, those difficult conversations, build trust in those situations. And it's like we're getting to a point where that's what you need to start focusing on is like the very specific human interactions that you're having with people, mostly to protect ourselves,
Yeah.
as everything starts to get even bigger. And there's going to be so much more content because it's so much easier we want to do this, and this, and people just expect it to be done like that. But if you're an event professional on the ground wearing 6 hats, it's not that. It's a
Yeah.
lot harder than that. So I know it's weird to see how everything's kind of like spinning upside down right now. I'm excited to see when it starts to
Well,
level out a little.
it's interesting because you're talking about like the relationships on and like the social media too. Like I was speaking with a student recently. She's an event management student, and we were talking about like growing your network and what that looks like and why it's important and the age old adage,
Yeah.
right? And I was talking about being present on LinkedIn, and I said like this is the time that you want to start building it. You don't wait until you've graduated. Don't wait until you've done. And she's like, yeah, we're working on this event, and I'd really love to like do a wrap up on on LinkedIn about how the event went. I'm like, that's great, but you now also need like 300 other pieces of content to go with
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
Because it's not about like LinkedIn is not the resume anymore, and I think like most people know that like yes, it is where you can go to see what my experience is and get that kind of information, but it's where people are having conversations, right? It's and those that are just using it as I got a new job, I got a promotion. Okay, great, but you're not going to get that much out of it as like the people who are posting the funny content, the engaging content, the controversial content, and the people that are having those conversations and getting recognized because they're they're not just like spewing stuff. And like I can tell when someone's comment on my post is just AI like blah, like
Copy paste. Yep.
copy paste, and like I'm like sometimes I'm like I don't even know what you're saying. Like I don't know what's going
Or you just
on.
said exactly what I said, only
You
in
said
a
what I
different
said,
structure.
or
Yeah.
you're talking about something that's like completely different than
Yeah.
what I posted about. I'm like, I don't even know how to interact with this. I'm like, I'm not gonna delete it or whatever because it's good for my engagement. But
But
like the people that are actually taking the time to respond are gonna get so much more like appreciation from me and also like an actual response back, right? Because I want to have the conversations with people when I post something silly or controversial or or whatever it is. But if you're just like relying on tech too much to replace your relationships, like it's gonna eventually leave you just
Your
with
only
you and the robots.
relationships will be the tech. Yeah,
You and
and
the robots.
it's like, especially with LinkedIn, that's such a good point, because I think about it, and when I go to look at someone's experience, if a client reaches out to me, potential client, or if I want to work with someone, I go to their LinkedIn. I don't scroll all the way down to see the last place they worked at, because like you and I could put event manager. You, event manager, what you've done is I mean, you trade shows, me live TV production, like could
Yeah,
not be more different. Still the same core structures, but like if I didn't read the posts that you were putting, I wouldn't know what you meant by that. Like, what are your
right.
actual skills? What is your actual zone of genius? What's your
Yeah,
niche that you do? So it's like if you interact as a human, you put stuff out there, it gives a lot more depth to the explanation of what you do rather than just I work in events. Like, unless you have Disney or a company like that people are like,
right,
she worked for Disney. Like,
right.
you need to do more of an explanation. And like, that's the best way to do it on social, and make those connections and then have those conversations with people outside of LinkedIn. Like,
Yeah,
even if it's like this, it's like, that's how you build relationships in this world. And it's getting harder. It's getting
yeah,
harder to sift through it, but it's like, it's so important to do. You need your
yeah.
people.
You do. You need your people, and like I really think that those that are overly relying on AI tools are going to suffer long term. Like they're gonna maybe think right now, "Oh, sure, I'm able to post so much more and do so much." And like, look, I'm not the biggest user of AI, but I use it. Like we all use
Hmm.
it. It's even if you're not trying to use it, it's built
You
into so
use
many
it.
tools
Yeah.
that you're already using, right? There's things that I use it for, but if you just let it replace all of your output, it's going to show and it's going to reflect, and you're going to start to probably lose the muscles as well to like do those like actual pieces of content and actual critical thinking, because you've just let like you've not, you know, exercised that for a
Right.
while.
And I'm okay with it. I mean, and I use AI, and I know there are some people who use it so much, but still have the human piece of it. And like, that's if you post something on LinkedIn, controversial, funny, whatever it is, and then someone tries to have a conversation with you about it 3 days later, and you're like, like it's, you don't know, it wasn't your words, you're just putting your name,
Yeah.
like, that's how you lose those muscles. But if like you're using AI just to help, brainstorm ideas, that's great, as long as you take it and make them your own and
Yeah.
actually put some of your thoughts in it, which a lot of like the people that we interact with in AI, and a lot of the AI events people, I'm thinking Ivanka, like, definitely still have the human brain piece
Yeah.
on it. But there are so many people that don't do that, and if you
Yeah.
don't do that, that's where you're at risk, you said, of like those muscles just completely losing function. And that's scary, because there's always going to be the human piece of it. There's
Yeah.
always going to be conversations. I know even interviews now sometimes are through AI, but you can't get through life holding up your phone
Yeah.
to answer people, So it's like, if you're going to use it, that's great, but still put you into it, because people want a relationship with you, not the computer, you
Yeah.
know?
For sure.
I
For
wish more
sure.
people understood that, but it's hard right now. It's so tempting because we're expected to crank shit out like that. So, it's just so much easier to copy and paste, but use your
And I
brain.
think like we're seeing it come back around, right? Like
Oh,
we're
yeah. Oh,
seeing
yeah.
like the people figuring out what it's great for. And I know like I've talked about it on the show like a bunch, but it's definitely finding its place, and we're all finding our place with it, and
Yeah.
some better than others, I'll say.
And it's
But
gonna help. It's gonna help. There's a lot of like mundane, time consuming tasks that aren't gonna take our position. They're like in addition to what we actually want
yeah.
to do, that AI is going to give us so much more time to like
Yeah.
do the actual creative piece of our role that we like. And if we can figure out those tools, it's a game changer. And we're
Yeah.
all going to be more productive, and we're all going to get to flex the muscles that we want to more often. So it's like you said, we got to find that balance.
Yeah,
And
for
we are.
sure.
It's starting to
Yeah.
fall into place slowly, but
Yeah, for sure. Now I want to kind of circle back to something you said earlier of, there's so much change that's been happening in the industry. I mean, every industry, like you said, it's every industry. I've worked, I spent most of my career in tech. I'm still seeing it, companies were announcing reduction in forces, being acquired, getting acquired. Like there's like all this stuff that is just, and it's not going to stop, right? Like it's not, it's just, there might be periods where it's happening faster and slower than other times, but it's going to be constant. So how can event professionals, or I mean anyone, but like specifically event professionals, ready themselves for the inevitable, right? So, I'm seeing a lot of people who are now getting new jobs, again for the first time, like who weren't at their last company for very long because another acquisition or reduction in force happened. So how do people kind of fast track this like relationship building when that your companies are not, like, I don't know what the average someone stays at a company is anymore. I'm sure it's
No,
not
it's
20,
not a
30
lot. We
years.
just talked about this. It's no longer the 40 years in one company. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So, like, how can people kind of prepare themselves, or what skills can they bring when they're starting a new role, or they're thinking, oh, I'm going to need to find a new role soon? Like, what is it that they can lean on to help them in those transitions?
Don't wait. You said this too, but it's like in more than one context. It's like constantly be building your network.
Yeah.
Have your people, have your board of people that you know what you can do, and have their own networks. And like, I think what's happening is so many people are leaving corporate, starting their own businesses. And because we have so many tools at our disposal, a lot of those businesses are becoming successful. And that's what's getting acquired by the bigger companies. So you're right. I don't think that's ever going to slow down. So it's like, you have to be prepared to showcase yourself. You have to be prepared to talk about what you do well. You have to be prepared to explain. We're in a fortunate position right now. The only silver lining of all these like layoffs and stuff happening is that people don't question gaps anymore in your resume. They don't focus on that as much. They don't focus on if you've left 2 or 3 times, you just say layoff. Chances are they've been laid off too. So it's like, but so that isn't, we don't have to worry about explaining that as much, especially if you could just say layoff. But what you have to be able to do is like, well, this is why that company hired me. This is what I can bring to you. This is something that I see, and I think you may have talked about this with Kayla, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but like, don't just focus on the role that you're in right now. Like yes, you should focus on it and get really good at it. But when you're an event professional, especially, everything that you do is a transferable skill, and it's a transferable skill to a million different things. So keep track of what you've done, what you've learned, continue to develop yourself outside of corporate role. Do the self-development, watch the, you can get a lot of them for free, but learn your emotional intelligence. Yeah. Learn what leadership style you are and how you like to communicate. Take a class on like conflict resolution and conflict management. Continue to develop yourself. Figure out what parts of your job you really like and that you really shine in, so that you can continue to develop those. And then when you're in a spot where, you're SOL with no job, you have something to fall back on. You have something you can promote. You have something you can go to the next company and be like, I'm really freaking good at this. And it's not, I'm really good at doing X for X company. I'm really good at doing X skill that will also help your company. So it's like you said, it's like, don't wait until you graduate school. Don't wait until you lose your job to build your network and start looking at what's out there, following the trends, developing what makes your heart sing. We talked about this too, like find what makes you happy, continue to develop that, even if it's on your, on your own time. I know we don't have a lot of time. I say that as a mom and I'm like, what time? When I'm supposed to be sleeping? But like continue to take the time to develop yourself and develop the skills that make you happy. And then they will be there and you will have that to fall back on, because we're all going to get laid off. That's the circle of life. No one does companies for 40 years anymore. It just doesn't happen.
No.
And that's okay, because I think we all get a lot of experience. The good news is, like I said, we're in a profession where we have so many transferable skills. Figure out what one you like. Do that. Do you like helping other people in coaching? Do you like being on a trade show floor? Do you like live production? Whatever it is, hone in on those skills. Learn as much as you can about yourself, and then you have that to show the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no perfect place to wrap up than that. So prophetic.
I know. I just even did the hand motion. My goodness.
I love it. The perfect wrap. I couldn't think of a better place to stop.
And off soapbox. There we go.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Tell us where people can find you online if they want to continue the conversation.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not as good as Shindo. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm not as funny as you are. You are like the best person at taking trends and turning them into event content. Like, you take all the big trends and make them specific to events, and everyone I'm like, yeah. You
Yeah,
get
that's
it.
just me being like a nerd.
I love it, and it works though. But you can tell you like it because it comes across. It's
Yeah.
You're very good at that. But I'm on Instagram. I'm not as funny as her, but I do post content. It's Gabriella_speaks. That's where I post a lot about my speaking and workshops. And then LinkedIn, Gabriella Robuccio. My name will be in the description. Don't try and spell it. But find me there. I love having the conversations. I love talking to humans. That's what I do. So please reach out about
Amazing.
anything.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.